Today's video is sponsored by Skillshare, so warm thank you to the whole Skillshare team to supporting the work on my channel Firm Learning. So you want to know what the up or out principle in consulting is and how it really works? So for sure, when I was a young student about 10 years ago, this was always a thing that really gave me headaches when I was thinking about maybe joining consulting after graduation. What does up or out really mean? How does it work? Does this mean that I might lose my job if I do some mistakes on a project? Will I just be kicked out of the firm if I'm not good enough? So for sure, these were questions which were in my head. And I didn't really had any resources at the time to really understand this. I always felt like this is a topic that isn't really talked about, and for sure at some recruiting events when I talked to representatives of any of these firms, I never really felt like that I got a straight answer, that somebody was really spilling the tea on what up or out really means and how it works. So in this video I'm going to do exactly that. I'm going to talk about this little secret of the consulting works. So welcome to another coffee break here on my channel Firm Learning. My name is Heinrich. I'm a former McKinsey consultant, and on my channel I want to help you to become successful in the first years of your career. So before we start, I just want to be clear that I'm not talking about the situation of any specific firm, but rather talking about the general situation of tier 1 consulting firms, and I trust similar things will be true for tier 2 and tier 3 firms as well. It is also important to understand that within the same firm, how strict this up or out principle is applied might vary by geography, also because of course the labor laws are different country by country, with of course the resulting implications that come from that. So in this video I will tackle the up or out principle in 3 steps. First, I'm going to talk about what the up or out principle actually is. What does this really mean? Then second, I'm going to talk about how it really works in practice. And then third, I'm going to talk about what happens if you are on the out part, right? So if the firm asks you, decides that you cannot work for the firm anymore in the future. So without further ado, let's start. What does up or out even mean? What is this even supposed to mean? And indeed, another word that some people use is grow or go. And what this really boils down to is that in the end, throughout your career in consulting, you get either designated, either you get promoted to the next level every other year or so, or at some point, if you're not getting promoted, you will be asked to leave the firm. So pretty much your work contract will be terminated. You can assume that this principle is applied in a rather strict way for all the MBB firms and other tier 1 firms, and again to some extent also to tier 2 and tier 3 firms. So but why do consulting firms do this? What is their rationale for doing that? Well, they want to keep the pyramid in the organization, and they want to make sure that they create a system where the very best get to the top, and the people who maybe do not perform to these highest levels that they expect will at some point leave the organization. And this is exactly what the up or out principle is supposed to do. So over time, either you're good enough for the next designation, you're considered worthy to be promoted to the next level, or this is not the case, you're not considered good enough, and then you will need to leave at some point. But of course, there's also criticism for this principle. And maybe you're familiar with the expression of the Peter principle, which pretty much means that in many organizations, people get always promoted up to the level of their personal incompetence. So people might be very good, highly effective in the jobs that they used to do, but then they always get promoted up to a point that they fail, that they cannot do this new role anymore, and then often this means that you need to leave the company as the employee. So if you translate this to consulting, what this means is that maybe you're a great project lead, maybe you do an excellent job at managing projects, managing your clients, managing your team, but maybe you just do not want to advance into the junior partner position as a next step. Maybe because you don't want the lifestyle, you don't enjoy the tasks that you will likely need to do. So you would be very happy just to stay in your project lead role forever. This is just what you're comfortable with. This is what you enjoy doing. And this is also where you're really good at. And choices like this are usually not possible in these large strategy consulting firms where the up or out principle applies. So over time, you either need to go up or you need to go out. This is really what this boils down to. So let's now move to the second part. How does this really work? How is this principle really applied in practice? But before we jump jump into it, I want to introduce you to the sponsor of today's video, and this sponsor is Skillshare. Skillshare is an online learning community with thousands of classes for creative and curious people. You can explore new skills, deepen your passions, and get lost in creativity. There are classes on marketing, personal branding, presentation skills, and many more. All of these are topics that are highly applicable to a career in consulting, banking, or corporate. And the best thing is that I made a slide writing class for Skillshare, so you can access and enjoy it as a Skillshare member. Personally, I recently took the class Productivity Masterclass, Principles and Tools to Boost Your Productivity, from the fellow YouTuber Ali Abdal. It's a great class. It taught me many new aspects of productivity, and I very much enjoyed how he applied the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule to productivity. Classes on Skillshare are specifically curated for learning. There are no ads, they're always launching new premium classes, so you can stay focused and follow wherever your creativity takes you. And the best thing is that it's less than $10 a month with an annual subscription. Skillshare created a special offer for subscribers of this channel from learning, and so the first 1,000 subscribers of me that click on the Skillshare link in the video description will get a free trial of the Skillshare Premium membership. I hope this helps you to explore your creativity. Check it out, link in the video description. And indeed, what most of these consulting firms have is that they have very highly standardized career tracks. So if you join these firms, you already know from day one that in 1 year you will be promoted to this level, then in another year on average you will be promoted to the next level, then in 2 years to this level, and so on, so that you have an average time span until you pretty much know that this is your career track that you can follow to get partner at some point. But of course, for each of these steps, there is some level of flexibility, and often this is described as a window. So you have often a certain time window within you can make the designation to the next step. And what this then means is that in this time window, usually there are 3 points in time where you can make the designation. So if you're considered a high performer, if you're considered a rock star, then you might have the chance of being promoted early in this window, so earlier than your peers. And indeed, often this difference is only a couple of months. But if you are really one of these high performers who always consistently is able to get promoted early, this really can add up, and then in the long term you might be able to make partner 1 or 2 or 3 years earlier. Then there's the standard regular point in time where most people, say 80% of all the people, will get designated. So this is kind of the average career track that you will be on. And then there is also this late promotion, the late designation. And this is for the people where for whatever reason they were not yet seen fit to be designated in the standard regular point in time. Maybe they got some subpar performance evaluations, maybe there were some things in their development where some partners expressed the opinion that they still need to develop a certain area, a certain aspect of their skill set in order to be ready to take on that new role, to take on this new responsibility that comes with the promotion attached to it. And then indeed, if you are designated in this late spot, then you're fine, then you're designated, and then your journey continues, and then maybe you have another year or 2 until the next window opens, and this gives you then plenty of opportunity to recalibrate also your performance ratings. But then of course what can happen is that then within this window there are people that then do not get designated. And while on the more junior levels the big majority of people gets designated, it is only a minority who doesn't make this cut. Then the more senior you get, up to the partner level of course at some point, the larger the share of the people who does not make it will need to leave the firm at some point in time. Of course, what you need to understand here is that these things do not come by surprise. You will have received several instances of performance reviews before. You will not be surprised that this is then the result if it really gets that far, if this really happens to you in the very end. And in a moment, we're also going to talk about what really happens if you are asked to leave the firm, what this process really looks like. So stick with me here for a moment. But again, it does not come as a surprise. It is a very transparent process. And of course, the consulting firm that you work for usually wants you to succeed. They already invested lots of time and money just to hire you. Then already invested lots of time into your training. So they want you to succeed. So often there are different processes starting if somebody is starting to fall behind, where you will get coaching, where you will get additional support. And then this does enable lots of people to indeed improve their performance and then make the cut to not in the end be in this position where it just doesn't work out anymore. But then of course every year people are affected by up or out. People need to leave. And then the question is, how does this work? What does this really mean? And this is now the third part of this video. So what happens if you need to go? And here the question that I get most often if I discuss this topic with other people is that they say, well, but they they cannot just fire you. There are labor laws there. Right? And of course, this is a sensitive topic for the consulting firms. So everybody has a big interest of not letting this escalate to some legal type of situation. So what usually happens is that the consulting firm will approach you and will just try to work something out with you so that you can leave on good terms and all of this is settled in an amicable way. So what this usually means is that you will get several months of time now to reorient yourself. For this time, you might also get a paid leave so that you still receive the salary, but can again maybe do some interviews with other firms, with other companies. I'm aware of several instances where then partners that worked with these affected candidates tapped into their very own network, trying to find some job opportunities which would be a good fit with this person, and then trying to help them to get into this new role after the consulting time. And then often, of course, some type of severance agreement might be part of the deal as well, depending on the individual circumstances. So while there are some instances where some type of legal escalation might happen in the end, these are only the rarest cases from my experience. Nobody wins by doing that, especially for the tier 1 firms. You can trust that the consulting firm will do their very best to find an amicable solution to the situation that both sides, both parties can live with. And of course, the other aspect of that is that because you as the affected person, as the affected consultant, because you know already far in advance that you are currently on a slippery slope, that maybe half a year or a year down the line, your future in the firm is really unclear. Most people understand that this is the track that they are on. They already by themselves try to look around, are looking for other opportunities. So many people will already by themselves have left the firm before it even gets to this formal point where the HR professionals or the responsible partner from the firm approaches you to formally let you know that this is now the process that you're on and you will need to leave. So hope that this creates some clarity and transparency into this topic, and that now you're able to understand the upper out principle much better, how it works, how it doesn't work, what this really is all about. So as always, if you now still have any questions, leave me a comment below in the comment section and I will do my very best to answer all your questions. And of course, every comment also helps me with the YouTube algorithm. And if you have your very own first-hand experiences of the upper out principle, maybe you were even affected by it in a negative way, if you want to share your story, I trust this would be highly valuable for all the other people here in the Firm Learning community as well. So I highly encourage you to do that. That would be great for all of us here. So now, as always, if you took any value out of this video at all, please destroy the like button for the YouTube algorithm and also subscribe to my channel to stay up to date on all my content. And if you want to see even more from me, I also have an Instagram. You can follow me on my handle Firm Learning, and also have a mailing list. There's a sign up link to this mailing list below in the video description. In addition, I'd also love to connect with you and get in touch on LinkedIn. You can find the link to my LinkedIn in the video description as well. So feel free to just hit me up, reach out to me. Love to hearing from you guys. And of course, thank you again to Skillshare, the sponsor of this video. If you're interested to try out Skillshare yourself, have a look at the Skillshare link in the video description. I trust that there are some highly valuable and insightful classes that you can take. And I now want to say thank you to all the members of Firm Learning. You really are the OGs. You are the guys who are really supporting the work here of the channel. And if you want to become a member of Firm Learning as well, hit the join button next to the subscribe button. There you will get all the information, what becoming a member is all about. So if you watched until the end, thank you so much. This is warmly appreciated. My name is Heinrich, and here on Firm Learning, I'm releasing videos every single week on Saturdays. So stay tuned for next week. And until then, bye bye. Good weekend to all of you. Cheers, guys.